Hey there YouTube. Today I'm going to take my recently installed Bestway power steel pool, which I set up in my backyard as such. It comes with this filter. It's typical, very similar to what Intex includes with their pools. Basically it uses a cylinder type filter inside of here, which you have to clean out and replace quite frequently. And then the pool itself uses chlorine. You can either get powdered chlorine and other chemicals, or liquid chlorine from your local pool supply. But you got to do that weekly as well, or else your pool will go from this pretty blue to a nasty green. So what I've decided to do is replace this sucker with this. So this pump is a sand filter pump and saltwater water system all in one. So instead of a normal pump, which you can use, I could have used this and then added a chlorinator attachment to it, but I decided to get a sand filter because they're much better, and might as well get one that has the chlorinator built into it. So that's what I ordered. This one here is 2,650 gallons per hour, and is good for pools between 4,800 and 15,000 gallon capacity. This pool here is a 20 foot by 48 inches high pool, which is about 9,600 gallons of water. That's what I calculated. So I fall right in between there. This is no small job, and I can tell you right now it doesn't come with everything you need. So I'm going to go through what I had to do to make this happen, and I'll list all the parts and where I got them and links and everything in the description. I originally ordered what I thought was going to be a sand filter and pump with chlorinator built in from Amazon. It was listed that way, but I received this instead, which is a 3,000 gallon per hour sand filter pump only. So I unpacked that, and much to my chagrin, quickly realized this does not have a chlorinator. And so I contacted Amazon. They were completely useless about it. All they wanted to do was refund. Couldn't explain why I got a different model than what was listed on the listing, and couldn't guarantee me that I wouldn't just get the same thing again if I ordered again. So I opted to purchase from Walmart instead for the second one, and it was actually a little bit cheaper. And they said it would be free 2-day shipping, but it came overnight. So I ordered it at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon and received it the very next morning. So that was pretty awesome from Walmart. The other thing I plan to install is a Hayward Skimmer, which is a through-the-wall type skimmer. It'll have this little flappy sort of thing with a basket inside of it that you can access from the top. Open the door and you'll be able to pull out your leaf, catch it, and it'll be through the wall so that it actually catches stuff. Now, this doesn't come with everything you need to use to connect it to Bestway pool either. It does come with the gasket and the part that will go inside the pool. It also comes with this little attachment here to attach a pool pump. So that part would go inside above the basket there, and you'd attach your pool pump hose to that. Vacuum hose, I should say. It then comes with this sort of thing, which you can use if you wanted to put a hose on there that didn't have a coupling of any kind, and just use like a thing to squeeze it on, a bracket. So that screws on there. But if you want to just hook your hoses up to it, the hoses that come with most Intex and Bestway pools are not going to fit, right? So the threads on this is too small for the outside, and is different size and female to female. So there's no way to connect it direct. So I had to buy some parts. So local pool supply store had nothing. Was very unhelpful. We don't carry that pump. We don't carry that skimmer. Sorry, you're on your own. Which is kind of what I expected. Went to the local hardware store, Lowe's and Home Depot, Could not find the parts I would need to attach that hose to that bottom set of threads, either the big or the small. So I got online and did my own work. So first of all, my pool did not come with plunger valves like some of the Intex do. It did come with this one here, which allows you to turn the water off, but that's only for the water going out. I have these sort of things for the water coming out of the pool to the pump, and those aren't going to get used once I replace the pump. Those will get tied off, and the water will come through the skimmer instead, which will end up being in the wall. It's 1.5 inch to 1.5 inch threaded. You would think this would be something that every hardware store would carry, but that's not my experience. Did not find that anywhere. So ordered it online. I think it was like $7.95 or something like that on Amazon. I will add some plumber's tape to it just to be safe, but it will screw on like so. Beautiful. And then from there, I decided, since I don't have a way to turn off the water exiting the pool, I'm going to add one of these guys, which is also 1.5 inch. So that'll screw on there. That was, I want to say $11 at Home Depot. Okay. And then from there, I'm still at 1.5 inch. So I'm going to need something to go from 1.5 inch to the 40 millimeter that come with Bestway pools and Intex pools. So what I got was this set here. So this set is very handy. It comes with 2 rubber washers, 2 of these couplings that go from 1.5 standard type fitting to 40 millimeter type thing. Comes with 2 of those, and it comes with Teflon tape, which is great, so that I can go nice and easy. Again, I will add Teflon tape to that, but that shows you that that will go there. And then I can take my thing and put the seal. I'm sorry, I'm using a handheld phone. I don't have a tripod, and even if I did, I'd have to be moving it constantly. So that will now fit as a direct connection off the bottom of the skinner. All right, so I mentioned before that in order to attach an Intex or Bestway type hose to the Hayward Skimmer, I will need to use some parts I ordered on Amazon. The 1.5 to 1.5 threaded coupling will go there. The 1.5 to 40 millimeter coupling came in a pair of 2 of these and some Teflon tape and 2 rubber gaskets. I will use just 1 of these and 1 of the rubber gaskets and the Teflon tape. The other one will just be a spare that I can use some other time for something else. So basically I'm going to wrap the threads with the Teflon tape and then insert them where they belong. So there you go. All right, so, and you want to go the way of the threads. So if it screws on that way, then I want to go the same way to say it. And you want it taut. Okay, so next I'm going to take this, which will go into the bottom nice and tight. That should not leak, hopefully. All right, next, to connect it from here to there, I'm going to do it into the skimmer first, mostly because it's easier to turn this. Okay, so the last part will be to attach this into the Intex or Bestway type hose, and it's going to go on there. But before I do that, I am going to put a little bit of Teflon tape on these threads as well. You want to have it going with the threads. So the same way it's going to screw on so that it doesn't get unscrewed. That's what you want. So I'm just going to go around this guy a few times. Tightening as best as I can as I go. And then you can either rip it, or if you have scissors handy, you can cut it for a little bit nicer connection there. All right, so then I feel like it should be good. I'm going to put the washer in there, and I'm going to just screw it on again, making sure that it goes on straight, because you do not want to strip your threads. And just like that, I should say, pretty good connection. It goes with a nice ball valve, and I will hook that to my pool tomorrow. Alright, so the installation of my Hayward Skimmer, basically what I did is I put the bezel. I had to drain the pool a bit, as you can see, but I put the bezel where I wanted it, and then I used a pen and I just drew a square around it, and then from the square I just basically cut it with a kitchen knife straight down. The last one I'm worried about is this here. Looks like I have to go down just a little bit lower. I don't want to go too far, but I'm going to do that right now. Alright, something to be aware of that I just noticed. This is not a square, it's actually a rectangle. It's almost square. You can see when I put it the lengthwise way, it is a little different. So I'm glad I didn't overcut my length, because it is wider than it is tall. So I'm going to take another 1/4 inch off with scissors this time around, and then I'll show you what I do next. Alright, so there's my hole, and I'll show you how the bezel lines up. Pretty much perfect, as you can see, right? Top, bottom. Notice if I was to flip it this way, it's not a perfect square. You see the lip there? So it is supposed to be sideways, and that's how it's going to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to puncture the holes through the PVC of the liner so that I can drill it into the side of the skimmer. Alright, so it comes with this rubber gasket, and some people cut this in half so that they can put one side on one and one side on the other without draining the pool. I didn't want to do that because I do think that having it together probably gives it a better seal. It's meant to go like a butterfly between the edges. It's meant to squeeze in there, such. And that's where you get a little bit of forgiveness if your hole's not quite perfectly straight lined, but not enough. If you didn't cut it big enough, you're not going to get this gasket on. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to just screw, I already punctured the holes. I'm going to put the screws through. I'm going to put them all through first, just enough that they're sticking out, because I'm going to have the plastic. I'm going to get all the screws through first, using my screwdriver to make sure the holes are big enough as I put them in. There's two different types of screws. You got this type that's meant to be sunk into the faceplate, and then this type that's meant to attach just the gasket to the skimmer to hold it up. So you're actually going to attach the gasket to the skimmer before putting the faceplate on the other side. So we'll do that first. Basically, I'm going to hold it up, and the way I know which ones to put it in is it's everywhere that these are not. So that means these ones are going to go in the middle, and the screw holes that aren't here, right? So the ones in between and the one in between. So I'm going to put one here, right? And that'll be used for that. I'm going to put one here. Like that. And two on the top. I can rotate them. They're all together in one bag, so you just kind of got to fumble through until you find the ones you want. And then the two top ones, again, they go between. There's one, and there's the other. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put those in there. That'll hold it like that. Then I'll work on the face plate, which will attach from the inside as well. Being careful not to push your screws back out into the pool. That would be suckish in so many ways. So I'm going to start with the middle one. Make sure you're hitting the hole. You got to kind of line it up by sight. And just a warning, they're not pre-drilled or pre-threaded on this side. So you are going to need a little bit of a push on them. I would not tighten them. I would not tighten them down until you have all of them lined up and in the holes. All right, so I've finished with the first screws. The next step will be to add the faceplate. I'm gonna do that now. Show you what it looks like inside now. There you go. And you can see there's this little flipper here that flips up and down as the water goes in and out when it's at that level. All right, and on the inside, that's what it looks like so far. So as you can see, I used the blunt edge screws to do the middle ones, and now I'm going to use the countersink ones on the faceplate to finish it up, and those will be covered. Now, with the big blunt screws as well as the countersink screws, put them in kind of like you would a tire, tightening them diagonally across from each other little by little until they're all totally flush. Don't go crazy with one screw because then it'll go on crooked. So get each screw on a little bit and then add a little bit. Another thing I did is I dumped once I had this thing attached, I dumped all the screws into the stringer. It's a nice easy place to get them from instead of trying to screw with the bag. Like I say, I'm just gonna get all the screws in a little bit and then I'll start cranking them down diagonally. But even to get them started, I'm doing them diagonally from each other so as to not have undue pressure on any particular corner, side. Mind you, it was important to have cut these holes beforehand because it's a lot harder if you can't puncture all the way through because of the strainers there. So you definitely want to have made both the little holes and a screwdriver size hole through them before you attach even the blunt-headed screws. You do need all the holes. Some of them are for blunt screws, some of them are for countersink screws. It does not look like there's going to be any extra screws in the bag, so don't lose any. Looks like there's the exact amount of both. So that's the last of my screws. Now I'm going to tighten them again until they all are. Something else I'll point out is I'm using a very large screwdriver to meet the size of those heads. You do not want to use a screwdriver that's too small, as what you'll do is you'll strip the head of the screw and then it'll be impossible to get it out or in. Almost tightened on all of them. Still doing crisscross until I see everything flush. Careful not to over tighten any one screw, because I don't want to strip the plastic inside the skimmer. Nothing you can do about that if you do. Well, it's not totally true. If you strip a screw, you can always put a little shim of wood in it, but it's better to avoid that. Almost there. You can see it's getting nice and flush. All right, and that's it. It's on. Once the water level gets high enough, I got the hose going already. The water will start going into the skimmer, and then the skimmer to the pump, and I'll have action. For now, just because I don't want that to happen overnight while I'm filling up the pool, I'm going to close my nice valves that I attached here so that when the water comes out, it doesn't just go out into my grass, which is sitting here. For now, I'm still leaving these guys on. Once I get this attached to my pump, those will get capped off with the rubber stoppers that came with the pool. So let me show you what it looks like on the inside. That's what it looks like internally, and that's what it looks like inside the pool. So my water level is pretty close to going in, as you can see. So I should have a working skimmer in the next hour or so, I would say. I also replaced that while I had the water down with the one that came with the new pump, which is a little bit nicer. I would recommend you do the same because, again, water pressure, trying to change that with water above it is much more difficult. So that's it for tonight, folks. So So without further ado, I am going to start unboxing so you can get an idea of how it comes. I'm just going to open it up. You're seeing it as I see it. So I'm not claiming to be an expert on this yet. I have watched some YouTube videos myself. Find one for this exact model. Did find some, but they weren't super thorough on every part, right? So some of them went into real good detail on the setup, but didn't cover how to add salt to the water or something like that. Some of them were professional videos made by a pool company or something, but they didn't quite cover everything either. So I'm going to try to here. So inside the box, first off, I have a leaf skimmer that'll get attached to the outside of the chlorine pump. I'll show you that when we get there. Inside I also have this replacing all that. This will be a short hose that goes from the sand pump to the chlorinator pump. And it comes with a couple long hoses like I showed you before. Second one. Inside here then we have, this is the part that actually electrocutes the water, that converts the salt water into chlorinated water. That gets attached to the sand filter. That would be a part that does not come with a sand filter alone. So if you order a sand filter and it doesn't come with one of these, it doesn't have a chlorinator. This is the top of the sand filter. So if you had ordered just the sand filter, it would come with one of these. This is what allows you to change between filter and backwash and things of that nature. We'll open that up in a little bit. Then we got this guy here. That's the sand canister. The actual pool sand will go in here, and that's your the sand acts as the filter media to allow you to filter your water without ever having to change filters. There will be no filters that need to be washed or changed at all. The sand should be changed every 5 years or so. It will let you know when it's time. Okay. Next, we have, this guy's heavy. This is the one that weighs all the weight. This is a chlorinator. It's also the pump. So this is actually the motor that's going to make the water flow through the sand filter. And then it comes with this nifty little base that will allow you to hook from here to this, and then put your canister on top as a stand. That's pretty much it, other than some packing materials, your book, which tells you how to use this thing, and another rubber gasket, which is going to be for one of these connections here. I'm not sure exactly which one. Probably that one. Okay. Next I'm going to put it where it belongs. I'm going to kind of move my normal pool pump off to the side and start setting this one up. So let's do that. Okay, so first step will be to just kind of move this one out of the way. I don't want to disconnect it quite yet. Do my best to get it away. I'm going to move my blocks away a little bit more because the new pool pump is a lot larger. I'm just going to kind of move it out a little bit. Make sure you have it where you want it before you put anything in, because once you start loading this puppy up with sand, it's going to weigh a lot of weight, so you're not going to want to be moving it. So next step, we'll hit the chlorinator in place. And then I will attach the base that will be used for the other half, like that. Okay. It'll be between the two, kind of try to put it between the two like that, giving me a little bit of room on the right side there. Next, put the canister on the base. There's a little thing, a drain hole here. This will go onto that, just like so. So that's going to end up on here afterwards. You can see that that's for the electrical. Again, it kind of shocks the water, real low voltage shocks, making it so that you create chlorine from it. So that's going to end up getting attached through here. That'll get attached like that. This clear plastic part comes almost totally flush to the screw. Alright, so that's going to end up like that eventually. Okay. Next I'm going to want to loosen this so that I don't use too small of a screwdriver because you'll strip your screws. So I'm going to use a nice big screwdriver that matches the size of these bolts. You only have to do one side of it, then you can kind of just put it to the side for a while. Okay. Now this part here looks like it would be a throwaway. It's really not. It actually has a purpose, and that purpose is to cover this hole so that when you're filling up the sand, that hole, for two purposes. One, it protects you from putting sand into that hole, and two, it keeps it centered, that whole post. Okay, so the sand is supposed to be put into here up to at least that middle line, and no higher than that line, and no lower than that line. I bought 100 pounds of sand. That's what the book said. But a lot of the reviews online have said you need it closer to 150. My pool store only had 100, so I'm hoping that I can get to that midway point, or else I won't be finishing this tonight. So I'm gonna put this back in. There's nothing on the bottom for it to really lock in place in a specific spot. So that's why it's important that you have this thing as a guide, because it kind of will ensure that it ends up more or less in the middle. Okay, so next step, I can hook up the hoses before I work on sand. I guess I'll do that. So each one of the hoses has one of these rubber gasket thingies. Okay, that goes into the thing, and then this will come up flush. All right, so this will get attached to that, and then that'll go in there. All right, but you don't want to do that until you have sand in the pump. I'm not ready to do that connection yet, and I'm going to put this back where it was. All right, and then I'm going to get this guy here. This is going to go from here. Again, I want to make sure my rubber seal is facing down with this little L seal down into the thing here. That'll connect there, and then I'll take one of the two and screw it on here. Again, being careful not to do it off the threads, because you don't want to strip your threads. Okay, this one will attach to the top of that one there. This is what goes to that other part. So this guy here and that guy there are my pieces that are, one of the two of those is going to go onto that. This one, you can see the two plugs. It's going to plug onto that part over there. So it'll be here. So this one's going to go here, like such. Okay, and then this one, being careful not to get these things too tangled. This one will go here, lining those plugs like that. So that should just about do it for the assembly of the chlorinator part. So I get those threads to take. Looks like it's not plugging in, so it must have to go a different direction. There we go. Now it'll go in. That, tighten that, tighten that, tighten that. Okay, so that is the assembly of the chlorinator to the top of the pump. So now I'm just going to kind of put that to the side for now, because I won't need that for a little bit. Okay. This one here concerns me a little bit. Because again, I'm pretty sure I had to guess it goes like that. No. Yeah, it goes like that. So that one's going to go there. Okay. That one's going to go there. Got to make sure you're removing any tape. You don't want that on your threads. It might cause leaks. Just make sure you peel those all off. Put the rubber seal back though, because without that you're going to be leaking like crazy. Guaranteed. Now I'm going to try it without any plumber's tape initially, because I don't think you're supposed to have to put any on these type. That's kind of the reason for the rubber seal. But if it leaks, I'll take it back off and put it on with some plumber's tape. Okay? So that is the entire assembled unit going from the chlorinator to there. It'll end up like that after I put the sand in and then put the sucker on top. Alright, then I'm going to move this out of the way just so you can see the connections I'm going to do here. But then I'm going to have this one here going from the leaf catcher to the skimmer that I'm going to install. This one here. I'm going to end up with two leaf catchers, one in the skimmer that I'm going to install on the sidewall, then one that came with the pump chlorinator thingy. You just kind of got to squeeze this on. Be careful because these gaskets will kind of fall off. So put them on slowly and make sure those don't get pinched. Kind of be watching as you're twisting this on so that they're not coming off inside there. Because again, you'll end up with leaks if they do. So once that's on straight, you'll use this guy here to secure it on. Good, just hand tighten. Should not need tools on this. Okay? If you're using tools, you're probably going to break something because this is not made for that. Next, you put the basket back in, like so. Then we can put the cover for this back on. Put the cover first, making sure that the gasket falls in place properly. Don't want to squeeze it or pinch it. Okay, and then you can put the top lock back on it. Snug. Okay, now I can put this back where it goes. Last hose to connect will be going from here to here. I'm going to stick that into that hole, and then I'm going to put the hose on. And this will be the hose that goes to the skimmer that I'm going to install. If you're not installing a skimmer, your pool may come with the type of connection that allows this to go right into it. Right. So that's that. This is ready to be hooked up to the skimmer that I'll install later on. Okay. All right. So I think I'm to the point where I can start filling this puppy with sand. Again, I'm going to put this guy back on the base with the thing going out where it's supposed to on the side there. I'm going to make sure this is sitting straight. Because again, once I start filling it up with sand, it's going to be too late to do much with it. You can read the side here. It explains how much sand you're going to need. Okay, you need 100 pounds is what it says of filter media. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that, even though the stuff I got from the reviews said you need more like 150. So we'll see based on the fill line whether or not 100 is going to cut it. Alright, so I got myself 100 pounds of sand here. This is number 20 silica sand. It's special for pool filters. I got it from my pool supply store, Pinch a Penny. I'm sure Leslie's has it, any other pool supply store. I don't recommend getting it from just like Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace, whatever, unless it specifically is pool sand, number 20 silica. It's a special kind of sand, it's almost glass. Okay, so I'm going to start pouring it in. Okay, so basically, again, you want to keep this thing because it's protecting you from dumping sand down the middle chamber, which you don't want, and it's keeping the pool center, which you do want. Alright, I'm going to cut this sucker bit a bit, and then I'm going to start to dump it in. Okay? Now, you don't want to dump it all at once, from what I read. because you want it to be even in the bottom. So I'm going to put half. Be careful not to let too much fall out. I'll lose a bunch of it. All for the first bag. Now looking inside, I can say it's a little less than half full, so I'm guessing it's not going to be enough, but we'll see. Next step, you're supposed to get some water and kind of level it off with the water. Just going to dump a bit of water into the sand to let it settle a bit and to level it out. So that should do it. Just a little bit of water is needed, not a ton. All right, next I'm going to dump the second bag of sand in. This is about your last chance to move this thing. It's already 50 pounds plus the weight of the barrel, which isn't much. Once you put this in there, it's over 100 pounds, so I don't recommend trying to move it once you've done the sand to break it or get hurt or whatever. Second 50-pound bag, and here to inform you, level it out with your hand. It is well below the line for minimum, about 3/4 full from where it needs to be. I definitely need another bag of sand. Alright, so I got it all set up. I'm sorry I didn't show every little step. I was setting it up in the dark at night. But basically I ended up hooking to there, to the right of the leaf catcher, to the newly installed Hayward Skimmer. And I filled the water up, as you can kind of see here, right up to the top of the skimmer. It probably would be better to have it a little lower. I just like to pull a little fuller. If I had to do this over again, I probably would have brought in the skimmer a little higher up on the line. I thought I needed to leave a little bit below, but if I had brought it higher, it would have made it a little easier to have the pool fuller. So as you can see, it's running really well. And I can put a vacuum the vacuum attachment that came with the skimmer and hook it up to a vacuum cleaner as well, which I've done. I ended up also installing a double plug here. So I have a normal protected circuit outlet and then a regular outlet to the right, which I used for 2 pool lights, which I kind of just ran along the outside. And Intex sells these electric wire pool lights that have a light on the outside. They're 45 bucks on Amazon, and it's magnetic so that you have light inside without running a hole through your filter. So it kind of just magnetically connects to it and gets the power through the PVC, which is great. You can also change the color both on the outside and the inside to various different colors. I find that the color inside white is going to be your brightest light. You can have it cycling like a rainbow, where you can choose a particular color, but all the colors are a lot less bright than plain white. I got one light there, one at the opposite end there. You might be able to see it. I added the skimmer. I can show you over here, right? And the saltwater pump instead of the other filter that comes with the pool. All in all, it makes for an extremely well maintained pool. The water's crystal clear now. I don't know if you noticed when I was doing it the other day how murky the water was and dirty. Now the water cleared up within like 20 hours. It was crystal clear, and it's maintained that. The beautiful thing about this is you don't really have to put much of any chemicals in the pool. The little bit of chemical you need is produced by the Chlorinator. The sand filter keeps everything clean, and it's really, really nice. So that's about it. Realistically, I don't plan on doing much of anything else to the pool at this point. So the one other thing that I did, I noticed that with the weight of the skimmer, it kind of leans down like that if you have the water level high like I do, and water just kind of seeps out the top, as you can see. So I put together this thing, the things that used to be inside the pool coming out where these are for the old pump. Put that together with a piece of PVC pipe like so, and then a piece of a noodle in between just as a cushion, and that way it's nice and soft, nothing's going to puncture the pool or anything. And I just kind of put it between the valve in the pool, and that keeps all that leaking from happening. Kind of holds the whole thing away from the pool, keeping it more vertical, and so that the water in here isn't overgoing the rim. So that works out really nicely. A little bit of ingenuity, didn't cost me anything, and I just reused parts. Now if you didn't have those, because you didn't have that type of thing, you could buy something similar, just a cap to a pipe or something like that, and use a piece of a PVC with caps in each side that you would buy at Home Depot or something, and cut it down the size that you need. But you could do the same sort of thing to kind of keep it away. But again, nothing intrusive that's going to puncture through the pool, and it's not really attached. If you get shaken the pool a lot, it just would fall off. It wouldn't be the end of the world. So that's it. That's my installation. I also zip tied up the adapter thingies for the pool lights so that they're not hanging on the ground. Kind of attach those to the side of the electrical box, and the other big cord is just kind of wrapped up and kind of left there, zip tied up together. But that's it. So you got sand. I filled that with, it took 150 pounds of sand, even though the book said it should only take 100. 150 brought it right to just below the full line. For salt, the book said I would need about 6 bags of 40-pound bag salt. I used 5, and it seems to be enough. I do have the 6th bag. I'll show you what I bought. It has not alarmed saying low salt, so at this point I don't want to put more than I need. To start this thing up, when you first turn it on, it comes with a 00, and that just means it's just a normal filter mode, no chlorine being made, and that it'll stay 00 indefinitely, just doing strictly as a pump through the sand filter. What you want to do when you first turn it on for the first time is you want to change this valve. You depress this and you change it over with the pump off. You change it over here to backwash. Okay, so basically the opposite side here. Change the backwash, turn on the pool. You want to have this open with a hose connected to it. You can just take the out hose there. Make sure you close your valve. You take that hose off, connect it here, kind of put it to a drain or off into the grass, and then you turn it on and you let it backwash. Basically it's taking the water and it's shoving it through the sand and out this until it shows clear in this little thing here, and the water should look clear coming out the hose as well. So you'll do that for just a few minutes until it shows clear, and then basically you turn the pump back off, you change it over to rinse. Then you turn the valve back on. It'll continue to come out that same hose. Just do that for a couple minutes. That levels out the sand. Then turn the pump off again, depress it and change it to filter. Then turn the pump back on. You disconnect this hose, close this back up. Of course, put the hose back there before you turn the pump back on, and now you're rolling. Okay, so that's how you get the pump part going. To get the chlorine going, you don't want to get the chlorinator going until the pump has been going with all the salt in the pool for 24 hours. So what you'll do is you get the pump working, let it flow, and it's just doing normal filtering. Then you add salt. So again, I added 5. It said I could use 6. If I get a low salt indicator, I'll add the other one. The key here is you don't want to add more salt than you need, because the only way to get salt out of a pool is to drain a certain percentage of your pool and then replace it with fresh water. So you don't want to overdo it on salt. You don't want to underdo it either, but it'll tell you if you underdo it, because it'll have this low salt here. It also has a high salt indicator. If you have the high salt indicator, like I said, all you can do is drain the pool, 20–30%, and then replace it with fresh water, and then hopefully you get the percent you needed. If it's low salt, you just add more. That's easy to do. So I would start smaller and go from there. I did 5 instead of 6 like the book said for the amount of water in this pool. I figured I'd wait for it to yell at me that it needs more salt before I go above and beyond. So to add the salt, you basically cut open the top of the bag and you kind of just slowly but surely walk around the pool, dumping it in. Not too much at a time because you want it to dissolve. When you're done dumping a bag, get your skimmer or a brush and you kind of get any around the bottom and just kind of shake it up to help it dissolve. That would be either with, you know, a pool rake slash bag thing, right? Which is what this is called, a pool rake, which I purchased separately, obviously. You can do it with that or with a pole and a brush type thing to help it dissolve. So you do that. I would do one bag at a time, then brush, then I do another bag, then brush until it's until you've done most of the bags, right? Again, I wouldn't put the full amount it says until you're sure you need it, because you can't take it out easily. Once you get the salt in there, then you're gonna wanna let this thing run for 24 hours with just filtration, okay? That'll get the salt completely dissolved and the pool nice and clean. And then the next day you'll come out here and you'll hold down the unlock button. On some pool filters that would be a down button. You hold that until it beeps. That unlocks the controls. And then you can set the timer using the timer button to however many hours you want it to run each day. I haven't found exactly how many hours you should have it running. I went ahead and put mine at 12 for now. We'll see how the chlorine level is. If it's too high, I'll start changing it to like 8 or 6 or whatever. The other thing I would do is if you already are starting with normal chlorine in the pool because you've been using chemicals in your pool for the old type filter, then you could probably just start with your timer and move forward. But if you're starting with a pool that's just fresh water, no salt in it, and now you're converting it to a saltwater pool, then you're gonna want to do a boost on this. So basically, to do a boost, after you unlock the controls, you hold down the boost button until it beeps, and you'll see that it multiplies however many hours you had. I think it's times 8. And then it'll go for that amount of hours continuously producing chlorine. So normally if you were just using the filter, it would just have one green light. If you're doing the filter and then you put the timer, which is from the chlorine, then it would have 2 green lights. One is the on and the other one is the working meaning making chlorine. And then if you do the boost, you get a 3rd green light showing that it's in boost mode. It'll automatically come out of boost mode once that 80 hours in this case comes up, at which point it'll go back to doing the timer that you set. The other thing to note about the timer is you want to start the timer at the time that you're going to want it starting that cycle every day. So if you want it to start every day at 8 in the morning, you would want to come out here at 8 in the morning for the first time and start it, set the timer, and then every day at 8 it'll start at that time. There's no way to tell it, hey, start at 4 o'clock this afternoon, unless you come out here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to do it. Something else to be aware of, if you unplug, turn off the power in any way while it's on boost, next time you turn it back on, it's going to remember the amount of time you have set, but it's not going to be boost anymore. So you'll have to reset your boost again and it starts over. So try not to interrupt the power either by turning it off or unplugging it or changing your circuit breakers until the boost cycle is done, or else you're going to have a bigger boost cycle than you wanted. That's pretty much it. Again, don't put the salt in more than you definitely need because you can't take it out easily. You can always add more, that's easy. If it tells you you need more, you put more. And that's pretty much the whole kit and caboodle. Hope you got a lot out of the video. And I'm going to show you one more thing of what type of salt I use. Bring that up in just a second. All right, so this is the salt that I use. This is the more expensive because it's a finer granular that comes with a stain inhibitor. You don't have to use that. You can use the regular stuff. The regular stuff was like $8.95 a bag, and this was like $11.95 a bag. I figured I'd rather have the quick dissolving stuff. The other stuff just is larger chunks that you might have to shake around more with your rake or brush to get it to dissolve. this stuff dissolved almost instantly as it hit the water, which is wonderful. And it had the added bonus of having a stain inhibitor, so you're less likely to have a ring around your pool. For the extra $2-3 per bag, you only need 5-6 bags. It's worth it in my opinion. The book actually says you can even use salt like you would use in a water softener system, which are huge chunks, but it'll take a whole lot longer to dissolve. I don't recommend that just because it will take a long time to dissolve, and you'll probably have salt in the bottom of your pool for a good amount of time that you'll be stepping on, hurting your feet, etc. And it also can stain your pool liner if it sits on the bottom for too long. So I really recommend using the finest you can get. So again, this was like $11.95 a bag. The cheaper stuff that was larger chunks was like $8.99 a bag. For $3 more times 6, to me it's a no-brainer. But if you're really tight on the budget, you can go with the bigger stuff. And then it gets really cheap if you go down to the water softening. You can get it for like $5-6 a bag. But again, it's going to take a long time to dissolve. I don't recommend that. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. I do various different videos from time to time on projects I'm doing. I'll continue to do that. It may have nothing that you're interested in, or it may. You never know. But I try to be as thorough as I can and cover all the bases. I will be adding links to everything I purchased with the prices I've spent to give you a real good idea of how much this is all going to cost you if you want to go through the whole thing or a part of it. And you can, you know, based on what I've done here, decide to do it piecemeal or all of it, or go even further and add more stuff. So have a good one. Take it easy.